awesome to be here with you, and just like the interconnectedness, right? I think I actually met you through Jen, who was my midwife for my second baby, and my second baby, her birthday is coming up tomorrow, so we're all in this like remembering that moment time. Yeah, and I love that we've got a couple of folks here who are working with kids too, so good. How it all connects and works out. I also just really love the name of your business, Abundance on Purpose. So we're going to talk about money, and one of the things that's so fun about talking about money is it's like this taboo thing, right? Like we're not really supposed to talk about it. There's a lot of like we're kind of hiding it, or like there are people I know really, really well, and I have no idea what their income is. No idea. We never talk about it. Right? Like I might know more about their sex life, frankly, than their money life. Very interesting. Right? So as I see it, money, there exists in the world scarcity and abundance, and we actually get to choose where we focus. They're both around us, they're both in us, and our society currently has a heavy focus on scarcity, right? And especially right now, right? Especially right now, that scarcity feeling has been cranked up, supported, nourished. We are growing that tree big time, like as a larger society. And within us is that we, parts of our brain are also built to look for scarcity, to sense that. And that is because money is a resource, right? It is an energy exchange, it's a resource. And there is a part of our brain that's built for survival, right? Like our critter brain, as I call it. I've heard me talk about that. I've talked about that a lot. But it's actually our brain stem, right? It's the earliest developed part of the brain. And I love what you were saying, Keisha, too. It's like when we're young, that's really like we kind of live by that brain primarily, but we continue to live by that. So like kind of whatever we decide is safe. That can continue to guide us if we never question it, right? If we never reassess that. So we're going to do a little reassessing today of that scarcity, that making sure we get resources while honoring that part of us, right? Like our brainstem, our critter brain is there to make sure we don't die. So it's not about getting rid of any sense of scarcity. It's about shifting attention, awareness, and nourishing this part of us that is abundant, this part of the world that is abundant. And they're equal realities, even though it doesn't feel like that sometimes. So, all right. Okay, before I dive in, and as Amanda said, I like to interact. So I want this to be a little more interactive. If you don't have something to write with, I'd recommend grabbing that, like sneaking away while I'm telling my little story about my life. You might want to take some notes. If you want to take them electronically, you can do that too, but I'm gonna invite you to take part in this and really take this in for yourself. So first of all, a little bit about me. So I mentioned before, I live in Flagstaff, and where I live, how I live is absolutely a dream. I think when I was working, let's see, that over a decade ago, let's say, when I was working in nonprofit, and I loved that work. I loved being in service. I think I came into the world like with an eye for like, how can I make things better? Where can I have an impact? Like this is, I have a feeling some of you know, maybe everyone here has that sense, right? In some way, like how can I improve lives and the planet, right? So that, and I thought I had created early beliefs that to do that, I really had to give and give and give and never receive. So it was really about giving more than I had, even giving from scarcity. And in some ways, I mean, the intention under that was really positive, and I did some positive things, but it also wrecked my body. So that's where I went to see a naturopath, right? It's like I basically just burnt out all my systems. So I really had this lack or poverty mindset, if you will. I really felt like there wasn't enough to go around. And so for me to have anything or collect anything of value was immoral. I really had that sense. Today, it's hard to even imagine that woman. Like, so just through various work, and I think, you know, running a business is a huge personal growth opportunity, right? If you take it on that way. And so right now I'm living exactly where I want to live it. I'm living in a home that I love. I'm doing work that I love. I am only working with clients that I love. And I'm completely supporting my family even through a pandemic. So it feels like I don't wake up in the middle of the night wondering about how I'm going to pay the bills anymore. I don't have a sense that I'm taking away from anyone due to the abundance that I live in. I'm still very environmentally conscious, right? Like I had this sense of like people who are rich are wasteful. I still save stuff. I still recycle, reuse. I still compost. I still buy clothes from the thrift store, right? Like I still get to be me, which is like, oh, on the other side of it, like that's awesome. And I'm still in an evolution, right? I still bump up against my scarcity edges, for sure. So what I want to offer is that shifting from a focus and living by scarcity to a focus and living in abundance. I think there's a few steps to that, and it's a process, right? Like I said, it's not about eliminating any sense of scarcity completely. I don't know that that's possible or desirable. But as I see it, the first step is really recognizing that we even have a limiting belief, and probably multiple, right? They're probably intertwined, layered together. The good news is they're all intertwined and related. So picking one, which we're going to do today, is going to affect all of them. Super cool. And then choosing new beliefs. Okay, what do you want to believe instead of that old belief? And then after that, it's about taking steps every day. They don't have to be big ones, but every single day, stepping in that direction, consciously creating and grounding and nourishing, watering. I've been doing a lot of gardening, so I'm probably going to talk in gardening analogies. Yeah, like how can you help that grow every day, even a little bit, even 1% in that direction is going to add up very quickly, exponentially. All right, and then I think also it's like it takes courage and community to keep doing that. So I do want to say that community is definitely stronger than willpower. So this idea, and I've heard a lot of personal growth people take this as like, I think it gets misunderstood, right? It's like, well, once you know, then you do better. You just will it so. You just change tomorrow. Like, that's ridiculous. So I just want to let us all off the hook right now. You've had a long time to live by a certain belief. It's not going to shift overnight. And if a coach promises you that, you might want to rethink that. You can definitely have moments where like things click and it can feel like everything just changed, but it's an ongoing process. All right, so I'm curious, actually, before I guide us in a little exercise, if anyone here has, and I know this is true for some of you, but so we'll keep this as brief as we can so we can get to this exercise. How many of you are aware that you have a limiting belief around money? Like, yeah, okay. And you could, how many of you feel like you could articulate it? Like you could say, this is what it is. Yeah, or some version of it. Yeah, okay, awesome. Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, we're gonna go even further than I thought in 30 minutes. You all have done some work. All right. So let's see what I want to say next. Yeah, let's do this exercise. So go ahead on a piece of paper, or you can do this in your mind if you don't have a piece of paper nearby, but I think there's something about writing it down, is imagining like the most money that you have made in a month. So like, just like, what is that number? And if you haven't really made a monthly income, let's say in your business currently, how much could you imagine making in a month? So, you know, because one of the things is like, whatever fruit we are harvesting right now was like, we didn't just plant it, right? So our beliefs from before are shaping our experience now. And, you know, what you did before is like guiding how much money you have right now, right? What you did and what happened before. Like, yeah. So in that, so you might even, if you're not in a place yet of like, oh, I've made a good amount of money in a month, like it's coming, right? So write that number down, the top number. There's a really awesome book I highly recommend called The Big Leap. And Gay Hendricks is the author. I'll write it in the chat later too if you didn't catch that, but The Big Leap. And one of the central arguments or themes in it is that we all have an upper limit. So what you just wrote down is like your ceiling, where you could imagine abundance. That's it. That's like the max, you know, awesome. And my guess is that it's probably a bigger number than maybe it was before, maybe, probably different, you know, evolving. I want you to go ahead now and add a 0 to the end of it. So you're gonna, it's like times 10. And then taking a breath and honestly getting real with yourself, maybe even close your eyes with like your own experience. Like, what is your reaction to receiving that amount? What is that first response that you have? Honestly, genuinely, be real with yourself. All right. And got it? You might jot it down even, just like, what is it? Maybe it's like, there's some words that came to your brain or like some feeling in your body, or we get communication in all kinds of ways, right? Okay, I think what I might do, well, I can send this to you all. I think if everyone put your email address in the chat, I can also send this to you. Yeah, so I'm going to, if you want to share your reaction, you can. And also, I get this is a taboo topic, so it's okay if you don't want to share it. All right. So I love it. Amanda's just like ready with it. I don't deserve this. Pulled back. Yeah, how is that possible? Huge, amazing feeling of shock. Oh, thanks. Jen's putting her email address in there. Cool. Awesome. All right. So generally speaking, reactions fall into 4 themes in this exercise. And so I'm just going to briefly read through these, and you can decide in your mind which reaction closely matches yours, or as I'm describing it, maybe something about that really is connecting with how you feel about it. And then what's cool is like within each of these 4 main themes, I want to give you also some really practical steps you can take to begin shifting that belief. So I also want to say before we dive in, this is not about like, this has to be your goal to make 10 times what you make. That's not what I'm saying. Right? It's just about like what becomes possible, right? Like, so where are we limiting ourselves? And this is just a way of noticing that, of bringing that front and center. All right, so if your reaction was like, whoa, that's way too much, like, like just kind of short circuited, right? Then this might be a syndrome that I call, and this isn't a personal attack, so just hear me on this, because this was totally me, and I still bump up against this sometimes, is the pushover, right? So this is someone who is undercharging, is totally ready to take on others' expenses. So like, if you go out to eat, it's totally cool for you to take the bill, but like if someone else does, that's not ever okay. Like, really not good with that. There's this assumption you want to protect people, like you're assuming they can't afford things, so you're going to protect them from like even learning how much it costs. And maybe if you got overbilled on something, you're not going to even call it out because you don't want to deal with that. Like, you'd rather overpay than like call someone out on it. Okay. And the belief in this kind of pushover approach is that what others want is more important than what I want. Okay. That's kind of generally the underlying belief of this. And so the shift here is to examine, right? Is it possible? Could I believe that what I want is as important? Can I put myself alongside others? Can I hold others as capable? Can I hold other people as capable as I hold myself, right? A good practice here, if this is you, is to practice saying no when there's like, as a default, right? So instead of immediately being a yes to any requests, checking in, like maybe it's a no, unless there's some really good reason to say yes. And then of course, like,
interrupt really quick here. I have this on my, and it's from you. A hell yes, it is a no, and it's something that I've been practicing. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's a guiding thing. The last couple of years I've been trying on this, like, yeah, if I'm not, so often I think especially as women, we're taught that we should be agreeable, we should say yes to things unless we have some excuse to say no, right? So how many times have you had like an invitation and someone says, do you want to come to this? And you're like, oh, I'd really love to, but, and you have to tell them, like, it's like, there's jokes about this, right? Like, oh, but I have to wash my hair, like, what if we just said no? Like, what if like, I don't want to go to dinner is enough. Although maybe a lot of us would be dying to go to dinner right now, because that's the thing, right? Anyway, so obviously things like looking through your receipts, your bills more closely, and remedying any discrepancy in that, even if it's like 5 cents, like just that's going to help you shift that, right? Like really paying close attention to those things. All right. So that's one. That's the first one. The second kind of reaction generally is maybe thinking something like, oh, I'm so glad I'm on Zoom so no one else can see my number. Like, let's hide it, right? So if we were in a room doing this, I can always spot those people because they like kind of shift their paper. They like want to make sure like nobody's looking at it, right? And the idea here is like, oh, what would people think of me if I made that much? Like, is that even okay? Like, would people judge me? Like, is that acceptable? Could I still have my same friends? You know? So this is sort of the pretender. And generally with this is you might be someone who, like, you can generate money, but then you don't keep it. So there's this boom and bust feeling. There is this sense of like money is unreliable. So like as soon as you get it, your car breaks down, or you find yourself just like overspending on things. So the underlying belief here is that it's not okay for me to make more money than other people. And if I do, then they won't love me or I won't belong. Okay. So some remedies for this one are to track your expenses and like really notice, what are you spending? How much are you spending on what things? Like get really specific, track that, look at it, and then put some amount of that into saving every week, maybe even every day. I don't know, but like something more regularly than like most people. And pay attention to people who have more wealth than you that you really admire, that you see as good people that you look up to. Really pay more attention to them. And then another thing is like really embrace your leadership and your connection to abundance, right? So one way you could do that is like, you know, I said money's the taboo topic, right? The time that it tends to arise is when people are complaining about it, right? So that seems to be like the only acceptable way to talk about money. So when that happens, let's say you have a friend who's like really struggling. I think we all know people like that, or maybe experiencing that right now. You can actually offer empathy without sharing that current experience, right? So even if you are sharing it, like even if you are feeling financial hardship, stop speaking to that, right? You can just offer and like, oh, that must be so hard. I really hear you. You know, I'm here for you. Without going into it with them, right? Because that what you're working toward is like having that be less and less of the way that you connect with others, like tying it less and less to love. Financial struggle equals love in some weird way, right? You might notice as we go along, you're like, I think I might have more than one of these. That's okay. We all do. But the idea here is like keep it simple. So really picking one that you're going to focus on and take some steps in the coming week. All right. Another reaction, I'm noticing time, so I'm going to go a little bit, I'm going to talk a little faster. Another reaction is that you might have felt like your body braced to protect yourself from the thought, like you almost didn't even want to take in the number. You're like, and this one I like to call the procrastinator. So the procrastinator is, especially if you're running a business, is where you find a reason to pitter patter, like do all kinds of other things and avoid the activities that you know are going to really move your business forward, that are going to make money. So you might like over research stuff, or continue tweaking your website for the 10th time today, or, you know, instead of like reaching out and talking to potential customers or referral partners, or you totally avoid talking about money, especially fees. Like, so maybe if you're working with clients or if you're doing some kind of sales, like that's the part that just like you almost feel, you might feel like you want to throw up when it comes to like charging for your services. Maybe you're like, as soon as possible, I'm going to hire someone to do that for me, right? If I asked you right now, like, what's your current income? you probably couldn't tell me. So, so the belief here is, there may be a few, but I think underneath the belief here is I'm not worthy. Or maybe that it's unsafe to stand out, something like that. Right. So some remedies for this are to focus a little more on the value you provide when you are paid. So instead of this sense of like, I'm taking someone's money, focus on what's the exchange that's occurring. And avoiding half of that exchange is not really helpful, right? And of course, like, do the income producing thing first. Just knock it out, get it done first thing. And then really acknowledge yourself, right? Like, maybe you write it down, congratulate yourself, or maybe have a buddy and you can do this for each other. And start to really look at money and talk about money a little bit more with people that you trust. All right. The fourth one is, I could never earn that much. Maybe others could, but not me. That's not me. That's for others. All right. And the pleaser. This is the pleaser, right? I call this. And the pleaser has there's some overlap, you know, with some of these, of course. There's not like, we don't have like, they're not all like super distinct, but I think the pleaser is like, just like always available, right? So if you have clients and they text you at midnight, like you feel like you respond, and or you feel like you should. You're just like always on, always available. You're ready to give away time. You're ready to give away money even when you don't have it. Okay. Amanda and I were talking about this earlier, like, you know, generosity is beautiful. It's a really high value. It's my word of the year. Amy was reminding me of this earlier. Yeah, and I feel like it feels really good to be generous. But when I reflect on when you know, a decade ago, my idea of generosity was like give from an empty well, right? And now I'm like, that's not what I was doing then. Was sacrifice, not generous. And it feels really different for me, for the receiver, right? So you know that you probably have people in your life where they're like, yeah, okay, I could do that for you after I do this other thing for this other person, and I'm also doing this, and I'm struggling with that. Like, oh, thanks so much. That feels good. No, it does. It feels terrible, right? So don't do that to other people. Give from a full well only. Yeah. So the pleaser is really, the belief here is I'm not enough. Right? So they're like, I have to like keep proving that I'm enough by giving. There's a lot of guilt in here, you know, like if I'm not always on, then I'm guilty of dropping the ball or not doing enough, and that's why it's not working. It's endless, like it's an endless wheel. And so some things you could do to shift this are to, you could possibly make a list every day. What are 3 things that you accomplished? So start to really recognize what you are doing instead of, because when you're focused on I'm not enough, you're looking for where you didn't. So look for where you did, what you are doing already. Go back and read positive comments, reviews, or gather them if you don't have them, of people that have worked with you. Look at those regularly. And then set up, like, get really strict with yourself about your time. So setting up regular, limited times that you're available to help for free. And that's it. When those times get full, or when that bucket of money is done, it's done, right? So really set ahead of time, like, here's what I have to give, and only give that, at least for a time, right? Like that, you can reassess the time, and maybe you start out with too much and you need to pull back a little bit, or you pull way back and you're like, actually I want to be a little more generous. Awesome. Just set some parameters around that, to remind yourself that you're enough. All right, so I'm gonna just take a breath here. I know that was a lot.
Blue, I'm going to chime in here. I've got a shorter section, so you can take additional time if need be. This is so good.
All right,
so.
Cool. All right, awesome. Cool. So if anyone would like to share, I'd love to hear just like what's landing for you, and yeah, what's landing for you, and do you see in here, have you heard something, or maybe I sparked something else in your mind as a step that you want to take this week? I like to not, someday, but like this week. And there's only one more day this week, right? There's today, well, 2 days, I guess. So what day is it?
That was so awesome and so amazing. It definitely touched home for me. I think that I could relate to actually all 4 of those at some point in time, periodically, maybe throughout 1 week, right? So I think that being able to recognize it and kind of hone in on it and say, okay, this is what this is, and this is why I'm feeling this way, and it's okay that I don't be a pushover or a pleaser, and that's perfectly fine, because I think that sometimes as us business owners, our vision is so huge that to scale it back a little bit becomes hard, easier said than done. So I think oftentimes it's hard to even recognize when you're giving too much. So I thank you for that. Yep.
Yeah. That's great.
I think as a young entrepreneur, it's very, very easy to be always available, always please people. What do you need? I can do it for free. I don't want to tell you how much it costs because I'm not worthy of the services that I'm providing. Blah, blah, blah. I can go on for days and days. And so kind of establishing those thoughts, recognizing them, and then immediately establishing, even with just yourself, your reputation and how you want to see yourself as a business owner, a women in business, whatever you want to call it, will kind of cut those thoughts straight away so that you don't go down that road. Because I go down it literally every day, just like my Keisha's saying, with all of these different things, just, cycle kind of thing. So yeah, this is great.
Yeah, thank you. So great note. I love all the honesty here.
Something that hit home for me was like the procrastinator was the one that was biggest for me. And the idea of like do the revenue producing thing first. I was like, what? I don't even know what's the revenue producing thing. Like, okay, wow. So I was like, okay, this is a totally new frame to look at my day, like a new lens to look at my day through. So that was really cool. And I'm excited to try that on. It feels like totally off the wall. And I know it's probably something that would make a big difference. So thanks for that.
Yeah. Awesome.
I have to, so I said it before that, I've been working with Blue and she actually took us through this, activity. It was about a year ago. I don't know.
A couple of years. Yeah.
This obviously is my background. You cannot see the chaos. And if you saw my desk around here, you would laugh. Here's the funny thing. This random piece of paper showed up like under my thing. And it's the classic money syndromes that we went through a year ago. Just what you're talking about this morning. And I was like, wait a minute, look at this. Here's the thing. Last year, you had me write down a number and I wrote it down and I hit that 10x number in December. So there's that. And secondly, I'm looking at this and I really identified last year as the avoider and the pleaser. I didn't identify at all with the pushover and the pretender, and right off the bat, now I'm all over the pushover. So it's such a testament to the shift, the ongoing work, and as soon as you start dealing with some and uncovering some of those limiting beliefs, then you can kind of like, oh, now I've got some others. So it's just that a shout out to the continual working with somebody, whether it be a business coach, a life coach, in some sort of capacity as we grow as entrepreneurs, because there's just so much depth to uncover. So thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, the magic. I love that paper showed up.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. Awesome. So, so a couple of things can happen. I feel like when we have this awareness, it's like there's something exciting about it, and then there can also be something like very contractive that happens. So I just want to I want to speak to that as like, oh my gosh, I'm all the things. I have all the problems. Oh no, I'm a lost cause. So I just want to really make sure we don't do that. And really, I think Amanda, you and I were at a conference when I heard this phrase, and I don't know where it's sourced from, but I love it, which is that let me see if I remember it right now because I wasn't planning to say this. Is that doubt stops action, right? But also action stops doubts. So getting into action, like moving forward from a place of the new belief. So two things I want to invite you right now is to jot down an empowering belief that you would like to hold about money. So you're very aware of a limiting belief. So you might say the opposite of that, or you might already know what you would like to believe about money instead of what you been believing. Yeah, the other thing I want to just speak to briefly is that I think of money these days as a relationship in my life, a very close, intimate relationship that I need to put time and energy into, to cultivate, to connect with. And I used to not do that at all. Like I would ignore money, and then I would just be upset with money for not being there for me. Right? So every single week, I have a money date, and depending on the time of day and what mood I'm in, I usually do it in the morning. But if sometimes I have other appointments or something, and I do it later. But I'm committed every single week. I do not miss a week. This has been true for I don't know how long, maybe 3 or 4 years, really. Okay, once in a while I might miss a week. If I'm on a vacation, okay, great. But I set aside at least 30 minutes, and I really set the atmosphere. I might light a candle, I might diffuse some oils, I might make some special tea or drink some wine or have some chocolate, and I do all of my financial stuff. So I get in there, and first of all, I'm looking at everything that's coming in, everything that's going out. And like many of us, I have automated systems, right? So I have bookkeeping software that's tracking it for me, but I am going in and looking anyway. And then I still, I have a lot of bills I don't put on auto pay specifically so that I am paying those bills and I can offer gratitude. So for example, I was just paying my water bill yesterday, right? So I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful for running water. Like, wow, amazing. I have lived in other countries and did not have running water the way that I do now. So I get like, I'm really, but it's been a while, right? So I can just start to take that for granted. I feel like my money date, at least that monthly bill, I'm present to gratitude for that, right? I'm grateful for my home when I pay my mortgage. I'm grateful for the learning that I did when I pay the credit card bill that includes training that I invested in, or that coach I'm working with. Like, I'm just like the gratitude, right? It's really important that I'm cultivating that relationship. And the other way too, right? I'm acknowledging every client payment is like, I get to have a little heart to heart feeling of like connecting to that client, that impact I'm getting to have, that person I'm getting to have this little walk of our journey together for a while. It's a gift, right? So, so thinking about that, just throwing that in there too, as I think that's a pretty universal thing that whichever category you connected with here, consider your relationship with money. And if money is letting you down, how might you be letting money down? Like, how might that be a reflection actually of how you're treating money? All right, so empowered beliefs and an action. So I really want, the coach in me is like, I can't help it. I need to hear an action step from everyone here. And I want to invite you to have it be really simple. What is the simplest step you are going to take within the next week, if not the next 24 hours? I mean, ideally it's right away, just like before you have a chance to avoid it, right? Or to forget it or get distracted from it. I know we all have a lot of wheels in motion, so I don't want it to feel like a burden, an extra weight. I want it to be supportive, generative for you. So those simple steps I find are that way. All right, so who's got an empowered belief and an action step to share?
I'll start. Okay. I can identify with Jen in terms of, well, I do understand what my income revenue producing activities are, and I find myself pushing them off. So I'm going to focus on that. So I am worthy, and it's safe for me to make this money and stand out. And an action step is I am going to intentionally plan my day the night before and block schedule sometime in the morning to get my revenue producing activities done and checked off. Is that too big of a step?
Okay. Yeah. Woo. Love it. Who else would like to share? There's something too about vocalizing to other people. It makes a difference.
And Arlen, please, I will introduce you momentarily as soon as we're done with this. But Arlen, thank you for joining us. He's coming in from Qatar. So talk about the other side of the world. So I know you kind of came in through half of this, but if you've got enough, please feel free to share as well. And then we'll.
I do. Yeah, Blue, all those thoughts obviously resonate with people because we're not made of money. So how you manage money and how money manages you, we're basically trained from little kids. We mirror what our parents do a lot of times until you break a cycle, until you see that you can do different things. I know that it's interesting. I don't know if you can see the Qatari money. Their $100 bills are worth like $30.
Uh-huh.
But I carry a bunch of them around because hundreds make me feel good.
Yeah.
And then I have a feeling of abundance. And whenever you get gas, there's guys from India, Nepal, all these other places. I always make sure I give them what I think is probably double their hourly rate as a tip. And then that way I just know that I have an abundance, come from an abundance instead of scarcity. And there's a lot of times I used to think, man, I need. Raising a family of 5, everything else. So as I came in and I saw the pleaser, I know that there's a lot of times I'm over here alone, so I've got extra hours, and I'm just always trying to mentor and hang out and do stuff for folks that it's probably not the best use of my time, and then it eats into my night, and then I wake up and it's just kind of crazy. But no, all these things that you mentioned obviously are very empowering. And I will share something with you too, that I worked for a dental implant company, and the first time I heard the crazy fees that honorariums can be for like a prosthodontist who invented this dental implant that I was working for, somebody mentioned, man, his honorarium's like $15,000 for these couple hours that he's here. And then I realized he's losing $40,000 by not being in his office. So it's a sacrifice for him to be here. But yet, to me, who, 15,000 for a couple hours, I was like, man, that's crazy. So it was all really relative, So what was a sacrifice for him was a huge windfall for somebody else. So again, it was all crazy. But my whole my last couple months have really been focused on being debt free, and managing life when you don't have any bills. So that's like Amanda said, though, looking at those revenue actions first thing in the morning would make a ton of sense to me as well. Thank you.
Great. How soon are you going to start that, Arlen?
The revenue actions, tomorrow is my day off. So yeah, tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
We all
I
heard
got
it.
somebody at the door. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, who's next?
So for me, it would be I'm enough and I will be protected if I stand out. I think that being protected, because I feel like there's so many, like I was raised Baptist. So sometimes, like, I think it's our parents inside of us, right, subconsciously. And there's that feeling of how many people in the world that are so spiteful and evil, and when you're in this box, only so many people can touch you, right, because you're safe. And so even though I know that I'm offering something valuable and so important, it is very important for me to be protected, you know, for my family and things like that. So it's knowing that that protection will always be there. And then the action step, I was definitely contemplating on this, but I think I got it now, Blue. I'm going to offer free group coaching just once a month. And those that are in the foster care system or parents can actually join that free session, and I'll top it off like at 10 kids or something, so it's still manageable, especially online. Because I was thinking to do it like every week. And then through this, I'm like, you know what, once a month, because what I was finding is doing it every week, and I've only done it a couple weeks in a row, some parents might not show up, the kids aren't there. So it's really that they don't see the value in the free. So I'm recognizing that. So I think to do it maybe once a month would be, that's what I'll do. That's my action thing, is to change my postings to once a month for free services instead of once a week.
Yeah. Ooh, I love it. Yes, yes. I think you just highlighted another thing, Makisha, which is that, free, like, even when we're trying to be generous, sometimes we undervalue a thing by giving it away. So just kind of checking in on that. You know, there are places and spaces definitely to give, and I'm doing that too, but just noticing. Yeah. I love it. Amy, are you unmuted? You gonna share? Oh no, I can't hear you.
Okay, there you go.
Yes.
So I attract abundance while I'm bringing goodness to the world. So really kind of shifting my limiting belief about that. And then the action I'm going to take is to schedule a money date on Friday morning.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine, I suppose, will be my services are valuable, and what I have to offer patients, I deserve that payment because of our time together. And an actionable step I was actually thinking about before our call today, which is kind of funny that the universe is working in this way. But like I said, I tend to be available all the time. So I am working on, in the mornings, because I'm doing mostly part-time telemedicine kind of things. So my schedule is a lot more flexible. But in that way, saying that, before this time, I'm not available. So schedule any concerns or patient calls, during this specific block of time. And I'm going to start that today. Because
awesome.
I just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I think boundaries are such a service, not only to us, but to our clients. Like, to really hold, I think people really want, especially right now, want some sense of stability, of security, and boundaries is a really good way to do that.
Yeah, and it's really easy for people to maybe not take advantage of it because they might not be consciously doing that, but just understanding like, oh, well, she's going to respond to me at 10 p.m. So she's always going to do that. So just kind of establishing that right away is important.
Totally. Love it. All right. Jen, do you want to share? I think you hopped off. I don't know if you heard the prompt, but I was curious about your empowered belief and your action steps.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I got a call that bounced me off, but I'm back. So, my empowered belief is it's safe to be wealthy. That feels good. And then an action step, I have a couple I was thinking of. I wanted to ask, how often are you doing your money date?
Once a week.
Okay, that feels like a little too much for me right now. Okay, so I commit to doing a money date for myself twice a month to sit down, and I love the idea of the candle and like music and having it be really romantic and looking at where my money is, and yeah, that sounds good. And also the gratitude piece. I love that idea too.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I know we're probably getting antsy. Maybe I have to pee. I don't know about you. So here's what I want to just put out there. I'm going to put a link to my calendar. So if anyone here, if you want to have further dialogue about this, check in about this, explore some more support around your relationship with money, or really any other way I can be of support, just I'd love to hop on the phone with you. I have what's called a discovery session, and that's free. So that'll just block a time, 30 to 40 minutes, where we can connect further if that's of interest. So I'm just going to put that in the chat. And then thank you so much for your time, your openness. You've all clearly been doing a lot of work already, and what a joy. Like, I'm just you attract, no surprise that you attract amazing people. Amanda, thanks for hosting this.
Thank you, Blue. Thank you so much. That was just such a valuable session. All right, let's take a quick 10-minute break. I'm probably going to not do my target market part because we'll focus on that for a later time. I would like to come back and do our Unite session, a mini mastermind. So as we take this break, get up, walk around. What is something that you could use some feedback on that you're facing in your business right now? We've got a group where we can we'll break out into breakout rooms and just have, 2 or 3 per room, and, just do some collective mind sharing, and then we'll wrap it up. Sound like a plan? All right. Thanks again, Blue. All right, we'll see you back in. Well, how about we do, yes, just before 10 or 10 o'clock. We'll start at 10. I'll give you 12 minutes. How's that sound? Okay.